What's going on, Mad Maniacs? Welcome back to Mad About Disney, and today we are doing another tier challenge. Now, I did this a few weeks ago with the Pixar movies, and I wanted to now do it with Marvel movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You also may notice that today I'm sitting at my computer, but I'm recording with the camera that I use for my non-sitting at computer videos. It's a bit of a different setup that I'm trying out, so why don't you guys let me know what you think, whether you prefer me use my webcam, which tends to be lower quality, or whether you like this, which I think should be higher quality. So let's get right into the video. So if you didn't watch the previous the Pixar video, the way it works is that there are 7 tiers, going from S being the best to F being the worst, and I'm going to take all 22 MCU movies to date and put them in each of these categories. So let's just jump into it. So the first one we have is Captain Marvel. Now, Captain Marvel I thought was an alright film. Not one that I enjoyed too much or that I would see again, other than maybe to just catch up on the story or whatever. And for that reason, the fact that I wasn't engrossed in the film at all, I'm gonna have to put it at an E. Alright, next up we have Black Panther. Black Panther was a film that was highly anticipated by a lot of people. A lot of people were really looking forward to this movie, and I was too. I was really interested to see how they would take the character and put it into the MCU. And I am happy to say that it was an amazing movie. It lived up to all the hype, and it had a great story. There was great storytelling, great character building. The villain was probably the most intriguing villain. Killmonger was probably the most intriguing villain in all of the MCU to that point for me. And for that reason, I'm giving it an A. Next up is Spider-Man Homecoming, and I've always been a big Spider-Man fan throughout my whole childhood, and I enjoyed both the Tobey Maguire films and the Andrew Garfield films, so I was really interested to see how the MCU would handle this character. And in Civil War, I thought they did a good introduction of it, and I was excited for its own whole movie. And I am happy to say that I think it did a good job of that, and I think that Tom Holland is my favorite Spider-Man to date, which is why I'm giving it a B tier. Alright, next up we have Doctor Strange, which was an interesting film for me. I didn't really know what to expect. I'd never really heard of the character before the movie, so I had very little expectation for the film. Luckily, I was happy with the film, and I thought it added a whole other element to the MCU that didn't exist with, that sort of magic or whatever. And I thought that it played up really good. The character was really good. Benedict Cumberbatch did a really good job. So I think that's worthy of a C. It was a good movie, but I don't know if it's great enough to be an A or B in my opinion. Alright, next up we have Ant-Man and the Wasp, and for sake of these symbols being easy for me to produce and use, because I didn't make the symbols, but I took symbols off of Google and added numbers to them. And change the colors and such. I'm just doing the symbol for the character and then whatever movie it is. So Ant-Man 2 would be Ant-Man and the Wasp because it's the second Ant-Man film to come out. So Ant-Man and the Wasp, I thought it was a good, I'll bring out Ant-Man 1 out here too. I'll do both of them at the same time. Ant-Man 1 was a really good movie for me because I thought it was really funny, and I thought that that element of comedy was something that the MCU had not really fully explored yet. They did a little bit in Guardians of the Galaxy, but I felt like Ant-Man 1 did a really good job of that. And then in Ant-Man and the Wasp, I thought that having the character of the Wasp have more of a presence was really cool. The villain in Ant-Man and the Wasp was a little bit iffy for me. I wasn't sure if that was exactly what I was looking for, so for that reason, I'm going to give Ant-Man and the Wasp a D, and it does get the D instead of lower because I thought it was really funny and that it was a really enjoyable movie to watch. And then Ant-Man the original, I'm going to give a C because I found the villain a little bit better and it was just as funny as the second one. Alright, next up we have the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which are some of my favorite movies in the MCU. They're funny, they have a great story, I love Chris Pratt. The whole cast is great. It's just a great overall story. The first one I find particularly funny because it's the first MCU movie to really explore comedy in depth. So for that reason, I'm giving Guardians 1 a B. And as for the second one, I thought that it continued on the comedy and added a few more layers of story, some of which I liked, some of which I didn't like. I'm still not sure how I feel about Ego as the character or the villain. I did think that it was a good layer to add to the story, but I'm not really still sure how I feel about it. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a C. Alright, next up we have the Captain America movies, and if you can't tell by my shirt, I'm a big Captain America fan. I've always loved Captain America, favorite superhero growing up. And so, in case you didn't know, Captain America 1 is the first Avenger, Captain America 2, these are out of order for some reason. Captain America 2 is Captain America Winter Soldier, and Captain America 3 is Civil War. I'll start with Captain America 1, and this is probably going to be one of the ones that people don't necessarily agree with. But I am a huge history fan. I've always loved history, and Captain America 1 takes place during World War II times. And I really enjoyed this movie. I love the character development of Steve Rogers and his transition from little Steve Rogers into Captain America, so for that reason, I'm going to give this an A. As for 2 and 3, I also think that they're great movies. Captain America 2, I think, is probably my least favorite of the 3. Not saying I don't like it, I'm just saying it's my least favorite of the 3, and I'm going to give it a C. We're really loading up those C's. And then Captain America Civil War, I think, is a great movie because it brings together so many characters, introduces more characters like Black Panther and Spider-Man, which, if you can't tell from that, I enjoy those characters. I like those characters. So I'm going to give Captain America Civil War a B. Next up, we have the Thor series, and Thor is an interesting series for me, and I'll explain my thoughts on it as we go through. So Thor 1, I thought, was a good start to the series. I thought it had some elements of comedy. I liked the character Thor and Loki. I thought they were good, and for that reason, I'll give it a D. But then in Thor: A Dark World, I really lost touch with the franchise. I was kind of lost during the movie, and I didn't really see where they were going with the franchise, and I didn't quite enjoy it as much as I really would have hoped. So for that reason, I'm giving Thor: A Dark World an E. And then in the biggest comeback of the century, not really, but like in terms of MCU, Thor Ragnarok was probably one of the most enjoyable MCU films I have seen in a long time. It was funny, the color popped, the characters were great with the introduction of Valkyrie and all of the friends that Thor meets on the prison planet. Just overall, it was a great movie, and I was really wowed, and I don't know if it's because Thor: A Dark World was so bad or whether it was really just a great movie, but Thor Ragnarok to me was an amazing film that I think deserves to be S tier. Next up, we have The Incredible Hulk, the film Marvel wants you to forget. Unfortunately, this film did just not go the way that Marvel wanted it to, and that shows in the fact that they really don't talk about it at all. The Hulk character does stick around and is one of my favorite characters now, but the Hulk that we see today is not the Hulk that we see in The Incredible Hulk. And for that reason, my least favorite MCU movie gets an F. Next up, we have the trilogy that started it all. Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. And Iron Man is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. And, spoiler warning, I'll give you 5 seconds for Endgame, spoiler warning. Y'all should have seen it by now. I miss him so much. Iron Man was one of my favorite characters, and I'm really sad that he died in Endgame. It was such a heroic way to go out, but I do really miss his character, and I think his presence will be missed, as we see in Spider-Man Far From Home, which comes out in a few weeks. So, Iron Man 1, great movie. I think that it is certainly a B-tier movie. There's nothing super special for me in it, but I do think that it's a great movie. It kicked off the franchise great, tells a great story. Overall, just a really good movie, way to get the MCU running. Iron Man 2, I thought, did take a dip down for the franchise, in my opinion. It wasn't the best movie ever. It's not something I totally was engrossed in, and for that reason, I'm giving it a D. And then Iron Man 3, finishing out the trilogy, Iron Man's last solo film. I think that it just fits right in with the C, because I didn't like it quite as much as the original, but I think there were certain elements to the movie that I really enjoyed. I thought the plot was pretty good, not as good as the original in my opinion, but I still think that it is a really good movie. And then lastly, we have the 4 Avengers movies. In order from top to bottom, I tried to make their logos in Photoshop look as much like the movie logos as possible. We have Avengers, Avengers Age of Ultron, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. The original Avengers was a blockbuster film at the time. It was the first time we saw all these characters come together on screen as one team, and it was really remarkable to watch, in my opinion. You know, as a kid, seeing that group of people come together, the big 4 plus Hawkeye and Black Widow, it was truly great. Overall, I just love this movie, and that's why I think it deserves an A. A for Avengers. Alright, and then next up we have Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron I thought was a good movie. I don't think it was great. I don't think that it was as good as Avengers or Infinity War or Endgame would be, but I still think that it was a great movie that brought even more characters into the MCU than the original Avengers did. And for that reason, I'm giving it a B. And for the last 2, Infinity War and Endgame, we might as well just group these up, because these are both going up to the S tier. Now you might say, Mikey, do you enjoy these movies just because there's so many characters in one movie? Well, yes, but actually no. You see, Avengers Infinity War was one of the best movies of all time for one reason. It explored an element of film in superhero films that had never been explored to the extent that it did in Infinity War. The heroes lost. That doesn't happen. And the fact that Infinity War ended the way that it did was so shocking that it just shook people to their core. People passed out in the theaters. People cried. It was insane. And for that reason, just because the movie, the plot was so intricate, it was so fun to follow along and predict along the way, and I don't think anyone quite predicted how that movie would ultimately end, and for that reason, I'm giving Avengers Infinity War S tier. As for Endgame, I'm so happy that the MCU finished its phase, finished the Infinity Saga in the way that it did, bringing all these characters back together in one final battle with everyone was there. Even Howard the Duck was there. So it was incredible. I loved watching Endgame. 3 hours wasn't enough for me, and I can't wait for it to be on DVD because I just want to watch it over and over again. It's such a good movie, and I am so proud to call myself an MCU fan after that. So that's it for MCU rankings. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. If you want to see more tier videos like this, I was thinking about doing a Star Wars one, maybe. I don't know, we'll have to see. If you want to do any other movies, maybe a Disney Renaissance one, or just a certain group of characters, let me know. Even if you like Marvel, I could do another Marvel one, except I do characters instead of movies. Just let me know what you guys think. That's all for now. Please let me know what you thought in the comments below. Be sure to check out all the links below for other social media and for our TeePublic store. I just put up a bunch of cool t-shirts, so if you like Disney, you'll find something there. That's all for now, and I'll see all you Mad Maniacs in the next video.